Before this story begins, pause for just one moment. If you're someone who's drawn to quiet, emotional stories, stories about relationships, unspoken feelings, human psychology, and the small decisions that end up changing everything, then take a second right now and subscribe to this channel. These stories aren't about shock or spectacle. They're written for people who feel deeply, for people who notice silence, for people who understand that life doesn't always change with loud moments or dramatic exits. Sometimes, life changes while everyone is sitting still. Now let me ask you something. What do you think would happen if, for just 1 week, you stepped into someone else's life? Not to escape your own, not to betray anyone, not to cross any lines, but simply to understand. This is a story about 4 adults who believed they were stable, comfortable, secure, until honesty quietly entered the room and rearranged everything. Life-altering ideas rarely arrive with announcements. They don't shout. They don't demand attention. They don't warn you. They slip in quietly, almost politely, disguised as a casual thought, a half-joke, a sentence spoken too quickly to be taken back. And only later do you realize, nothing is the same. That's exactly how it began. Not with a fight, not with resentment, but in a rented cabin, tucked deep inside the Vermont woods. The cabin wasn't special in the way luxury usually is. There were no sweeping views, no expensive furniture, no sense of grandeur. But it didn't need any of that. The wooden walls carried the soft, earthy scent of pine. A stone fireplace crackled gently, filling the pauses between conversations with warmth. Outside, tall trees swayed slowly, indifferent to the emotional crossroads unfolding inside. Nature, as always, was unmoved. Inside the cabin, 4 people sat close enough to touch, yet emotionally separated by distances none of them knew how to measure. Emma sat curled beside her husband, Daniel, on an aging couch whose cushions had softened over time. She kept her legs tucked beneath her, hands resting loosely in her lap. Her posture said something her voice no longer did. I'm here, but I'm holding back. It was a skill she had learned quietly over years of marriage. Listening more than speaking, agreeing more than questioning, surviving more than feeling. Emma wasn't unhappy, but she wasn't fully alive either. Daniel sat beside her, shoulders slightly tense, his presence steady and familiar. He had the kind of posture that came from responsibility, from being the one who always showed up, always handled things, always made sure nothing fell apart. He believed stability was love. And for a long time, so did Emma. Across the room, Lily leaned comfortably into Mark. Her laughter came easily, naturally, like something that didn't require effort or permission. It was the kind of laughter Emma vaguely remembered belonging to herself once. Before life became efficient. Before love became practical. Before seriousness replaced curiosity. Mark rested an arm around Lily, relaxed but thoughtful, listening more than he spoke. He smiled often, but something behind his eyes stayed quiet. The fire popped softly. Wind whispered outside. For a while, everything felt peaceful. They talked about ordinary things. Work stress. Long hours. How time seemed to move faster with every passing year. How weekends felt shorter than they used to. Safe topics. Familiar ground. The kind of conversations people have when they're avoiding the ones that matter. Then Mark spoke. Not dramatically. Not intentionally. Just a thought released too casually to be caught in time. What if we did something completely different this week? The words hovered in the air before settling. Soft but heavy. Everyone looked at him. Mark lifted a hand slightly, already half smiling, trying to soften what he'd said. I mean, just to shake things up, he added. You know how couples get stuck sometimes. Routines blur everything together. People forget who they are outside of each other. He laughed lightly, but his eyes didn't. Emma felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear exactly. Something closer to recognition. Lily tilted her head, curiosity flickering across her face. Different how? She asked. Mark shrugged, as if the idea had surprised even him. What if we switched partners for the week? The room went still. Just living together, he continued carefully. Talking. Sharing space. No lines crossed. No secrets. Just perspective. Silence swallowed the cabin. The fire continued crackling, completely unaware of what had just been placed on the table. Daniel let out a small laugh that sounded wrong even to his own ears. "Have you been drinking too fast?" he asked, attempting humor. But Emma didn't laugh. She stared down at the wooden floor, watching the firelight flicker across it like restless thoughts she couldn't organize. Fear stirred in her, but so did something else. Relief. The idea was reckless, but it was also honest. Lily's smile faded. Her fingers tightened slightly around her glass. No one spoke. And in that silence something surfaced, unspoken, but undeniable. Emma thought about the distance that had crept into her marriage quietly. How conversations had slowly turned into schedules. How affection had become assumed instead of expressed. How love still existed, but felt buried beneath responsibility and routine. Daniel thought about duty, about long work days, about keeping everything stable, about how rarely anyone noticed how much he carried. Lily thought about laughter, how Mark made her laugh easily, but rarely asked what scared her in the quiet moments at night. Mark thought about invisibility, about how being dependable had slowly turned him into background noise, about how love without being seen can still feel painfully lonely. None of them said any of this, but the air knew. Finally, Emma spoke. Her voice was calm, steady. "It might help us understand each other," she said quietly. "It's only a week. We're adults." Daniel turned to look at her, surprised. Not by the idea, but by her certainty. Something flickered between them. Not anger. Not love. Distance. Lily hesitated, biting her lip, then nodded slowly. "Maybe it would be healthy," she said. "Maybe it would remind us why we chose each other." Mark exhaled, as if he hadn't expected agreement. And just like that, the idea stopped being a joke. It became a plan. They made rules quickly, almost desperately. No physical boundaries crossed. No secrets. Complete honesty. They spoke fast, afraid that if they slowed down, doubt might save them. That night, Emma packed her bag in silence. She folded clothes she had worn around Daniel for years. Safe clothes. Routine clothes. Each fold felt symbolic, like stepping out of a version of herself she no longer recognized. Daniel watched from the doorway, wanting to say something meaningful, something grounding, but the words didn't come. Lily hugged Mark longer than usual, her arms wrapped tightly around him, her face pressed into his shoulder like she was memorizing him. Mark kissed her hair, joking about it being an experiment, but his smile disappeared the moment she turned away. Morning arrived too quickly. Cars were loaded. Doors closed. Emma sat in the passenger seat of Mark's car, staring at the unfamiliar road ahead. Her heart pounded. Behind them, Daniel drove with Lily beside him, both staring forward, both thinking the same thing, both saying nothing. None of them knew it yet, but the decision had already begun changing them.